Hi, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from RicoScores, and as you see in the title, after I watched a little bit of tape on them, also I was just outside the house. I wasn't even home when this announcement was made, when we signed this guy, so that's why I'm so late, just to let y'all know. But I also, even after I came home, I had to watch a little bit of tape on him before I formulated my own opinion on him and everything. But the Washington Commanders have signed cornerback Michael Davis. He may have the potential to be the biggest steal that we've gotten in free agency, which says a lot with Frankie Louvu and the contract he's on. You never know with Allegretti. We'll see with Jeremy Chin. You know I'm a big fan of that, signing Austin Eckler. We have a lot of potential steals from this free agency. We have a lot of candidates that we can throw in there out of all NFL free agents that were signed. But this guy, we're going to take a look at some advanced stats, especially to show you why this could potentially happen. I'm not saying he will, but there's definitely some potential. There's a really good floor here, but there's also a crazy ceiling. And of course, we got to talk about where he fits in the scheme of this whole defensive back group and things like that. How does this affect our draft potentially, or we're still going to go another corner in the draft? All of that type of stuff. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned because I'm working on so much content. Y'all don't understand. Mock drafts. Again, I got to double back and still do the whole breakdown on F.A. Abada. I'm working on another draft rumors video, like draft reports. We have some information on some potential draft targets that we're starting to meet with right now and all of that type of stuff. So stay tuned for that update. There's been news about us potentially what we want to do, second overall pick, all of that. So stay tuned for that. Everything that I'm working on, again, mock drafts. I'm working on film sessions for a lot of draft prospect targets and things like that. And now that we're starting to get an idea of who we're targeting because we're bringing them in for top 30 visits, I may focus on doing film sessions for those guys. So stay tuned for all of that. Let's go ahead and dive into this video. I got y'all covered with any and every little thing that's happening with the Commanders, whether it's a rumor, whether it's a signing like this one, whether it's fake news, real news, whatever. I'm keeping y'all updated on every little thing that I know. Of course, if it's a rumor, I'm gonna let y'all know ahead of time. Hey, this is a rumor. Do not take this too seriously, but let's dive into why this rumor could be a good thing or a bad thing and things like that. Every little piece of information I get, I'm releasing to y'all. So let's go ahead and dive into this video right now. Let's get it. Adam. So Chase Young just got signed by the Saints. That's interesting. That just popped up on my phone like 5:02 p.m. But also, I did see a lot of y'all comments talking about my previous video where I changed the intro and everything like that, and y'all were laughing at it. So I really appreciate y'all for noticing that. I didn't want to make like an announcement about a new intro. I just wanted to see if anybody would notice type of thing. And so I really appreciate that. I'm going to make sure I take some time to like reply to all of those comments later. I was just busy, happened to be out the house, and I was seeing like the comments coming into my phone. So I really appreciate y'all for noticing that. But moving on, the Commanders have signed cornerback Michael Davis. The team announced today. This is a one-year deal for Michael Davis, and that's really important. We're going to dive into that. He's 29 years old, entering his 8th year. All 8 years have been with the Chargers. Originally undrafted out of BYU, he's had 74 starts in the last 5 seasons. He had an interception and 10 passes defensed in 2023, which sound like pretty decent stats. And he's had 14, 12, 15, and 10 passes defensed each year the last 4 years. And more connections, of course. You already know how this staff is doing. Adam Peters and Dan Quinn are not playing about prior connections. They're going to take in people's input throughout the coaching staff, throughout the front office, and be like, okay, you trust this guy. You know what he can do. You've seen him work. You've seen his work ethic. You've seen him off the field. Because we can watch film. Anybody can watch film and kind of see how this guy could potentially fit with what we're trying to do, of course. But like, I think these connections come into play where we know their work ethic. How serious are they about film study? How serious are they about getting better every day? How hard do they work and things like that? I think that's where connections mostly come in. Also with the floor of of, okay, somebody's in this staff has already coached this guy, so they know what makes him tick. They know how to get the most out of him. They know exactly which type of way he likes to be talked to, the way he likes to be taught, everything like that, because some people prefer a coach to be in their face yelling at them, like Colin Murray said that he wished Cliff Kingsbury would have been. And then there's a lot of guys like me, don't yell at me, man. Let me just do what I got to do. Tell me what I need to do, but don't talk to me like I'm a little kid and things like that. There's different ways to teach different people. And so it's just a lot of little nuance off the field things, personality, emotional, mental things that come into play. And that's a reason, I'm pretty sure one of the major reasons why we're bringing in so many guys that we have connections with. At this point, with us bringing in so many free agents from so many different connections throughout this team, it hasn't just been Adam Peters or Dan Quinn the entire way. Even Joe Wood Jr. and Cliff Kingsbury. There's been a lot of positional coaches like this one, for instance, which we're about to get to soon. It seems like to me, Adam Peters just put down a suggestion box. He was like, write your name and write what you do for the Commanders and put down some free agents you may want, and then I'm gonna try to get at least like one free agent from each of y'all's suggestions from guys that you've previously worked with, because we've been going all over the place. Because this time now we have Michael Davis, who played under our new DBs coach Tim Donatel with the Chargers last year, and I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing in this case, because Tim Donatel was really only like one of the only questionable hires by Adam Peters and Dan Quinn this offseason, in my personal opinion. Like the Chargers DBs did not look good last year, even with a lot of talent. They were very talented last year and they underperformed, but we'll see. I'm going to give Adam Peters and them the benefit of the doubt with Tim Donatel and all of that type of stuff. They must know something. And to sign one of his underperforming corners from last season, with him getting underperforming corners from out of basically his entire cornerback group, to bring the underperforming player with the underperforming coach, they must know something. There must be some serious trust here in this coaching staff. But I'm rocking with it, man. And one thing's for sure, I know Michael will at least have an honest shot to start, because his DBs coach from the Chargers just came here with them in the same offseason. And it's not like Benjamin St-Juste or Emmanuel Forbes even have a DBs coach that was with the Commanders last year here. Our DBs coach has only had previous experience coaching Michael Davis, who we just signed today. That's it. Nobody else on this roster in the DB group. And shouts out to Ben Standig, because this is pretty true, but we're going to dive into this because maybe there's a little bit more potential here than Ben Standig is saying. But shouts out to Ben Standig, because he pointed out Davis, entering his 8th season, has 74 career starts, including 13 last season, gives Washington a vet after Fuller's exit, and potential starter rotation option along with Forbes and Benjamin St-Juste. Not necessarily a cornerback one, but a low-cost addition. Again, we're going to get to that, because, hey, man, cornerback one, you say. Maybe, maybe not. Let's talk about it. But also, I thought something that was really weird, but really interesting, and also a great thing for the Commanders, is that did we not know this guy was signed until his presser? Like, was the presser literally his announcement? Like, oh, hey, we just signed a new veteran corner, a guy that's actually pretty noteworthy and well known around the NFL. Maybe not your top free agency signing wish list type of guy, but this is a pretty big signing. Oh, hey, your first time hearing about him is when he's having a press conference. Like, this team is not allowing any leaks at all. I love it how professional we've been. The whole Bob Myers and Rick Spielman thing got announced like at the same time as Ron Rivera. We didn't find out about that until the Commanders wanted us to know about that. It's amazing that even Wojnarowski and Adam Schefter didn't have that information leaked out before they were ready to put it out there. It's not like they decided that day, oh, you know what, let's just go ahead and get Bob Myers and Rick Spielman and fire Ron Rivera all in the same day. These were things that were probably in the works for months, and somehow this organization is doing a great job of not allowing any leaks. We couldn't say that about the previous regime. We couldn't say that about any really previous regime in recent years for the Burgundy and Gold. Honestly have no idea how they're doing it. It's really a breath of fresh air, because I think we found out, again, as a whole, including not only just fans, but analysts and even the beat writers like John Common, people like that, that he was signed by his initial press conference that he just had today. Like, I believe we literally went from like the Austin Eckler presser to out of nowhere, who's this guy sitting down getting ready to answer questions type of thing. And it's like, oh, wow, we just signed a new corner, I guess. Like, I believe they had the graphic of us signing him ready, had him ready to sit down for his presser before maybe even the beat writers knew about the potential signing. Or at the very least, we're not allowed to leak it early in that says a lot about the fact that beat writers, even if they did know before it was announced, that they respect Adam Peters and company enough to not release it and try to be like the first person to report it or something like that. Like they're always chasing, because why wouldn't you if you're a beat writer? So no matter which way you look at it, this organization is basically G14 classified. Shouts out to East Atlanta legend over there, Chris Tucker, for that one, man. But we're running this thing, boy, it's tight-lipped, boy, and ain't nothing getting out right now. I love it. But while Michael Davis was also there answering questions, he said a lot of interesting things, but none more interesting and important than when he said that he couldn't pass up the opportunity to play for Washington. Seeing the way Quinn's defense has performed, he feels like he's the perfect fit for the scheme, and that is further proof that the Commanders are a free agency destination. Day after day, signing after signing, is proven more and more like what I told y'all we would be a few months ago about being an actual real free agency destination. I'm not saying we're the #1 free agency destination, but a lot of people months ago just didn't see the vision. They thought it would just be the same old, and I was trying to tell people, watch out. People are finally going to want to come play for us. Outside free agents are finally going to look at the burgundy and gold, the team in the DMV, and be like, you know what? That actually looks like a place I want to play. And not only play, but put my career in their hands. Because think about it. Not only do the Commanders have the most free agency signings so far in 2024 out of the entire NFL, but also these are quality players, and most are projected to be quality starters, at the very least impact players as part of a rotation. Like, we're not just signing a bunch of bums. It's not like we have the most free agency signings out of the entire NFL so far, and we're just signing just random Joe Schmoes off the street or whatever, just straight nans. We're getting guys that actually are going to start, and not only start, but be good to great starters. And then on top of that, we're getting everybody on a cheaper price than what most people thought we would be able to. Like, we can literally not do this under Dan Snyder. I'm telling you that right now. People are willing to take less money to come here than to take more money to go elsewhere right now, just like my Georgia Bulldogs. Not everybody, but at least a lot of the people that we signed here will more than likely offer more money to go to another team. And just like my Georgia Bulldogs, people are turning down the bigger money for better development and for a chance to be a part of something greater. I love it, man. I love the parallels I'm seeing between my college and my NFL teams right now. And also, back to my main point that I was trying to get to, is that some of these people are even not only betting on themselves taking a one-year deal to come here, but they're also betting on our coaching staff to get them big money in 2025 after doing a great job of getting production out of them on a cheap one-year deal and 1 year like trial run in 2024. That's serious trust, y'all. Like, putting your career in this coaching staff's hands. I just don't think Rivera and friends had that benefit of the doubt from outside free agents around the NFL these past few years. But Dan Quinn and all of these guys are able to somehow convince these guys to just, bet, not only bet on yourself, but bet on us. We're going to give you this cheap 1 year deal right now, and then we're going to go out there and have you balling out and looking so good that either us or another team in the NFL is going to be willing to give you the big money that you want. But you got to trust us to do it. You got to take that risk. You got to jump off that cliff with us, man. And I don't know how they're doing it, but they're doing it. And again, I told y'all months ago that we would be at least somewhat of a really good free agency destination. They're even exceeding my expectations and the things that I was predicting back months ago. So shouts out to them. Also, in the past, when he was with the Chargers, I do want to point out that he did do a really good job of breaking down his Mexican heritage, which is so important to him and everything. So go check that out if you're interested. I thought that was really cool. Shouts out to Resh Manuel for tweeting that out there and getting that out there as well. Of course, follow Resh Manuel, because he's always going to have the most random background information on everybody that we bring in here. Also, moving on, now let's talk about Michael Davis himself. We had to boost up the Commanders just a little bit. We had to pipe us up a little bit. Now let's get to Mike Davis, man. So, Michael Davis, 6'2", 196 pounds, is a 7-year NFL veteran who entered the league with the Los Angeles Chargers as an undrafted free agent in 2017. In his career, Davis has played in 107 games with 74 starts and recorded 327 total tackles, 69 passes defense, 8 interceptions, and 2 fumble recoveries and a sack. Now, just from that alone, major observations just from that small slice of information, like those couple of sentences right there. Number one, he's immediately the most experienced corner on this team at 29 years old, and as far as games played and games started. And he's not even that old yet. Again, 29 isn't that old, but this is just a really young group. So now we brought in the actual real veteran. Noah Igbenogany is a veteran, but he hasn't played anywhere near as much. He definitely hasn't started anywhere near as much. So this is your first like true, okay, this guy's coming with a certain floor to him, veteran, to where we're not desperate to take corner within the first 3 rounds if they don't want to. I still think we should. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but we're not desperate to do it. So even after we signed veteran corner Noah Igbenogany, we are still a very young cornerback room. And so no, adding a Michael Davis helps that a lot, man. Because, I mean, yeah, youth is great. Having a bunch of guys that can run fast, jump high, and things like that is great. But you need some veteran presence in there somewhere, dog. And I'm surprised we didn't bring in a former Cowboy to at least make the transition going from the previous defense we had to Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr.'s defense a little bit easier. But they felt like maybe it wasn't necessary. You never know. Maybe we still end up getting Stephon Gilmore. But at this point, I'm starting to doubt it more and more. I don't think the Noah signing stopped you from getting Stephon Gilmore. But I feel like the Michael Davis signing definitely makes it far less likely that we end up going to get a Stephon Gilmore. And then major observation number 2, just from that small sample size of sentences. He's a tall, long corner like Benjamin St-Juste. So whether he ends up winning the starting job or not, and just to let y'all know, this is open tryouts, just in general throughout this entire roster, new coaching staff and everything, but especially between like St-Juste and Michael Davis, who both have never been coached by Dan Quinn or Joe Witt Jr. This is a wide open competition there. St-Juste has no seniority or advantage over Michael Davis just simply because he's been playing for the Commanders longer specifically. They're starting from the same exact spot in the race, and then again, like I pointed out earlier, Michael Davis's connection to Tim Donatel, if anything, he may actually have a slight advantage over Benjamin St-Juste over who can start for the Commanders going into, at the very least, like mini camps and things like that. I wouldn't be surprised if Michael Davis is the one getting the majority of the snaps. We'll see though. But back to my main point, whether Michael Davis wins the starting spot or not, I'm interested in knowing why they went after another long corner like this. Was this because they want to have at least one long corner starting and then also have one as a backup just in case the other guy's struggling or gets hurt or something like that? Because remember, Rivera and Drag Del Rio just basically let St-Juste be the only decent playable long corner we had for a couple of years on this roster, which was really annoying because it was like once Benjamin St-Juste is banged up, who's going to cover the bigger receivers? Who's going to even think about trying to cover a Mike Evans? We just didn't even have anybody. It was just a bunch of smaller guys that stood no chance. So I like that. Or on the other side of it, maybe they just want a cornerback group full of long corners. Because remember, Emmanuel Forbes is really skinny, but he's still a really long corner. Like, he can almost tie his shoes standing up type of guy. And they love Stephon Gilmore in Dallas, and he's very long as well. And he was typically the one covering the bigger receivers and things like that, the contested guys. So they definitely seem to potentially have a type. And now when we're doing like 7-round mock drafts for the Commanders, it's probably smart to lean towards longer corners when you're trying to mock a corner to us in your mock drafts. Just a heads up if it's the latter point. If the latter point is true, that they just have a type, they just prefer longer corners in general throughout the entire cornerback room, that's just something I wanted to bring to everybody's attention that maybe a lot of people didn't notice. Maybe they just like really long corners that can hang with anybody. You can cover the Mike Evans, but then you also have the speed to cover like a Devonta Smith. I believe that's what they're going for. And then lastly, my last observation from, again, those just couple of sentences is the fact that Michael Davis isn't a drafted free agent. And that takes me to the point that I like how the variety of guys that we've signed this offseason draft-wise is all over the place. Like, we have 4 former first rounders that have not lived up to their draft position and hype at all. I mean, like, 3 of them are former top 4 overall picks. Like Marcus Mariota was 2. I think Dante Fowler was 3 and Cleveland Farrell was 4 in different drafts. I believe Dante Fowler and Marcus Mariota may have been in the same draft though, which is crazy. But we have 4 former first round picks. 3 of them are former top 5 overall picks, have not lived up to the hype worthy of those picks at all yet. So maybe Adam Peters is seeing if this potentially elite coaching staff on paper can get the reason these guys were drafted so high in the draft out of them. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we have a bunch of undrafted free agents who have far outperformed their draft evaluations. And running back Austin Eckler, linebacker Frankie Louvu, all-pro Jeremy Reeves, and now cornerback Michael Davis. They come with a certain mentality, man. They've had to earn every little bit of their keep to be in the NFL and where they are right now. So there's a certain mentality that comes with that. And then, of course, there's a certain like natural God-given ability, natural born with it talent that comes from a lot of those top draft picks. And so maybe they're just still raw and they just need the right coaching staff to get greatness out of them. And I love the beautiful blend of all of that we're getting from these free agency signings. We have the guys that are just the super duper work ethic guys, have had to work for every little bit of anything they've gotten out of the NFL. And then you also have the guys that are just freak athletes and very naturally talented guys that just maybe just need a different style of coaching, and maybe they can live up to the hype that they had coming out of the draft. Then moving on in 2023, Davis played in all 17 games with 13 starts where he recorded a season career high 62 total tackles along with 10 passes defense, 3 tackles for loss, and an interception. The previous season, though, he led the Chargers with a career high 15 passes defense, the most in a season for a Chargers since 2017. And in 2021, he started all 14 appearances and led the team with 12 passes defense. Davis finished the season with 54 total tackles, 42 solo, 1 interception, 2 fumble recoveries, and 1 tackle for loss. This guy just always just seems to be around. Like when it comes to fumble recoveries and things like that, he just always, for some reason, he finds a way around the ball. But the first thing I thought of when I heard how many passes defense that he had, I know a lot of people are immediately thinking about the positive side of it. Like, yeah, it's a great thing, of course, that he's great at batting down passes. And it's also great that he's so battle tested, because you have to be thrown at to get passes defensed. But on the other side, I feel like there's a reason, like my immediate thought was, there's a reason that guys like Sauce Gardner don't really get a chance to even get a lot of passes defensed, because teams are literally just afraid to even throw it anywhere near him. Like they game plan how to throw away from guys like Sauce Gardner. But in Michael Davis's case, teams feel like they could just straight up try him over and over again. Like he must be doing something wrong on tape for teams to watch film leading up to every game going against the Chargers and then looking like, okay, so our game plan and our mission is to keep throwing at whoever Michael Davis is covering. But of course, 2022 wise, he made them pay for it. But in 2023, not so much. So again, it's a good sign and a bad sign kind of at the same time. When you have a lot of passes defense, it's kind of, remember Ronald Darby, where it's like, yeah, I mean, you have a lot of passes defense, that's a great thing, but why are teams consistently trying you? Why do they feel like they can get away with it with you? What are you doing wrong to just basically look like a green light to other NFL teams is my point. But at the same time, though, you know, I'm really happy that he's battle tested. And of course, you know, I'm Mr. Optimistic. I'm Mr. Glass half full. But I just feel like that's another angle that people need to look at it that a lot of people may not have thought of. Like, yeah, you have a lot of passes defense, but why? You know what I'm saying? But I'm a little skeptical. But again, the glass half full way of looking at this is that he is battle tested and he's ready to go. This guy he knows what it feels like for quarterbacks to target him consistently. So you don't have to worry about him being nervous. You don't have to worry about him wetting the bed or anything like that. If he gets beat, it's just simply because he got beat and not anything like mental, anything him overthinking it or worrying or getting nervous or anything like that. So I love that. At the very least, you could take that positive away. But off the rip, when I thought of Michael Davis after I saw that we signed him, again, while I wasn't even home, I immediately thought of the time that, I don't know if y'all remember, he ripped the ball away from like a Denver receiver late last year. Like a super hustle, playing till the whistle is blown type of play. Like he technically got beat on the route. Like the receiver caught the ball and then he just went and just confiscated it from him. Like, yeah, you don't really need that, buddy. Let me take that off your hands type of thing. And that's literally what Dan Quinn and Joe Wood Jr. are looking for. That level of aggression and never giving up on a play was like literally the exact play probably that got him on their radar. Like I wouldn't be surprised if Dan Quinn and Joe Wood Jr. may have even been watching that game and then saw that and then wrote his name down. Like, yeah, just write him down. Keep that in mind just in case we may need to go get a veteran corner. That's the type of guy with that type of mentality that we want on our team. Also, shouts out to Chris Cooley for these stats. Michael Davis had a rough season in 2023, but 2022 was the best year of his career. In 2022, and we're going to talk about 2022 specifically a lot, but we're not going to ignore 2023. You'll see as we progress through this video. But in 2022, he had a 74.7 coverage grade, 12 pass breakups, 1 interception, a 51.3 completion percentage allowed, and a 75.3 passer rating allowed. So let's really dive into that. Can we please get that out of him forward? Like that specifically. Can we get 2022 Michael Davis moving forward in 2024 and hopefully beyond if he ends up playing well enough for us to re-sign him and, you know, he stays on the team 2025 and further? Can we please get that out of him? Because if you look at his stats, I mean, let's just go look at Pro Football Focus grades first. 2022 wise, he had a 72.7 overall grade. For some reason, a 77.6 pass rush grade, but I don't really care about that too much. And then a 73.5 coverage grade, because pass rush, that's more scheme. Like, I just feel like the Chargers defensive coordinator did a good job of getting him the blitz, and yeah, he did a good job of doing it. But all I care about is overall grade 72.7 and coverage of 73.5. If anything, the run defense grade of a 61.3 is that weighs more than his pass rush grade. The bad of his run defense grade, well, not terrible, but, you know, below average run defense grade weighs more than the great pass rush grade that he has as a corner, in my opinion, just how I evaluate corners. But again, 72.7 overall grade, and if he had that 72.7 overall grade in 2023, he would have been the 29th best cornerback in the NFL in 2023 last season, according to Pro Football Focus. And if with there only being 32 NFL teams, that sounds like a cornerback 1 to me, or at the very worst, a really good cornerback 2. But that's if, and it's a big if, you can get him back to his 2022 self, which may have more to deal with scheme fit and everything like that than maybe him. Like, I'm sure a lot of it was on him, of course, but I'm also sure that it's also not just completely on to the player. Like, you just don't go from being that good in 2022 to that inconsistent in 2023. Like, I just refuse to believe it's all on him. I feel like coaching and scheme fit and all of that had a lot to do with that. So I'm curious to see if this elite secondary development group of coaches that we brought in Washington, on paper at the very least, they're elite development, and they've been proven with their past experiences around the NFL and their past titles and roles and responsibilities. We'll see if they can do it here. But I'm curious to see if this on paper elite secondary development group of coaches that we have can get the best out of him and get 2022 him in 2024 and hopefully moving forward. Because again, the best of him is actually pretty good. If he had that grade again, that 72.7 overall in 2023, he would have been ranked above guys like L'Jarius Sneed, Stephon Gilmore, Ronald Darby, speaking of them, Denzel Ward, Patrick Surtain, my dog Patrick Peters, Isaiah Oliver. I mean, a lot of really good corners out there. They feel like Pro Football Focus feels like, based on the way that they grade players and break players down, they felt like he was better than those guys I just named, along with a lot of other people like Steven Nelson, Mekhi Blackman, I mean, Jack Jones. I mean, the name goes on. Again, they had him ranked. He would have been the 29th ranked corner. And even better, in July of 2023, before the 2023 season even started, before he had his down year, a Chargers reporter tweeted, per Pro Football Focus, Chargers cornerback Michael Davis finished the 2022 season, finished 5th in forced incompletion percentage, 15th fewest yards allowed, and 13th lowest passer rating allowed when targeted. He was not one of the 23 cornerbacks who received votes in ESPN's poll. So is he the most underrated player in the league? That's actually really interesting. And then also shouts out to Billy Tinkle on Twitter, because while calling him one of the most underrated players in the entire NFL and saying that Adam Peters may have gotten a huge steal in free agency by signing Michael Davis, he also provided some elite advanced stats for Michael Davis. Look at these. Number 1 out of 90 qualifying cornerbacks in the NFL. Out of all of the top corners in the NFL, he was number 1 in open target percentage allowed. He was number 2 in points saved per play. He was number 4 in forced incompletion percentage. He was number 5 in WAR. I know a lot of people love those. He was 6th in completion percentage allowed. He was 7th in MTKL percentage. He was 11th in passer rating, 14th in success percentage, 19th in Pro Football Focus coverage grade, 19th in Pro Football Focus specifically man coverage grade, 24th in yards allowed per snap, 24th in EPA per target, 29th in yards per reception, and then 33rd in Pro Football Focus zone coverage grade, which also, before we even move on and talk about how those numbers are just elite, those rankings are elite, especially when you're looking at the ones at the top, that also shows, and I agree with this based on I didn't watch a lot of tape of them. Of course, I didn't sit down for hours on hours watching them, but I just pulled up some Chargers games like I've done with all of these free agency signings that we've signed so far, that I'll pull up like a couple of games, look at a few plays, a few drives and things like that to look at them. And I agree with these stats and these advanced stats and grades specifically, because I do feel like he's a better man cover corner than a zone cover corner, and that's why he's a great fit for what Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. want to do with this secondary, because they want to be very aggressive. They didn't lead the NFL in takeaways over the last 3 seasons for no reason at all. They're a very aggressive defense schematically, and Michael Davis fits that to a T. And so I would love, passes defense, they would love that they would, of course, Dan Quinn and Joey Jr. would love if that could turn into interceptions. And maybe they're like, well, he's doing everything else right. He's doing 95% of the process right. We just need him to catch them rather than bat them down type of thing. So maybe they see something there. And again, when you look at those numbers, it literally seems like he's one of the best corners in the entire NFL, like, period. Like, that first stat of receivers being open against him, the least when targeted out of every NFL corner, out of all of the corners in the NFL, is crazy, man. Like, again, but that's the 2022 season. Can we get that out of him consistently? Which takes me to the point that, shouts out to Burgundy Blog for tweeting this out, because I believe somebody, like a Chargers reporter, said this exact quote. Quote, "Perhaps no Charger embodies hot and cold streaks as much as Michael Davis does. In 2020 and 2022, Davis had quasi-shutdown years in coverage that gave LA hope for long-term production. But his 2021 and 2023 campaigns featured a lot of inconsistent play and coverage mistakes. Davis even got benched by Brandon Staley and the defensive staff at times," unquote. Which takes me to the point, so maybe he only goes crazy in even number years. That's all I got from that. Luckily for us, it's 2024, which is an even number year. But then what happens when it's January 2025 and it's still technically the 2024 season? Like, what's the fine print on that? Like, do his cornerback powers just get space jammed away immediately once we hit 2025? Like, does the football Grim Reaper come knocking on his door to come take his powers away at 12 a.m. January 1st? Like, how does this work? Let me know, Michael Davis. Let us know what's going on over there, because it's really crazy at how, like, literally 2020 and 2022 version of himself is, like, elite. And he looks like one of the best corners in the NFL at times. And then 2021 and 2023, he deserves to get benched. Like, I don't know what that is. I don't know. He has to have a bad year to be motivated to have a great year afterwards. I have no idea what it is, but we got to figure it out. And I hope that trend continues at least until going in through this 2024 season. And then again, with that 1-year deal that he signed, there's very few people on this team that are more motivated than him to go crazy in 2024. Like, I mean, if anybody's motivated to go absolutely stupid, it's Michael Davis on that 1-year, really cheap, prove-it deal, betting on himself. And again, like I said earlier, this coaching staff to ball out so he can get paid the big money in 2025. I mean, that man is trying to play his way into a big contract. And how he plays this season will be the difference between great money, because all of these guys are millionaires. So all of that is great money. So, I mean, I would love to be a millionaire. I don't care how much a millionaire is. I don't care if it's the bare minimum of $1 million. But that's the difference between, again, I call it great money, because maybe relative to everybody else in the NFL, it's not great money. But to me, that's great money. Great money and generational wealth. He can go out there, if he balls out this year, and gain generational wealth with his next contract. So ball out, big dog. I'm really rooting for you, honestly. And I prefer, honestly, to have the problem where we have too many good corners, and like we're thinking who's gonna even start, over we don't have enough good corners type of problem. So I'm happy that we're bringing in guys like this, where it's like, I mean, is he better than Benjamin St-Juste? Is Benjamin St-Juste better than him? We don't know. All of these guys have talent. I can't wait to see them go out there, because this is going to be another training camp battle. And you know me, man, leading up to training camp, I'm going to do my training camp battle breakdowns, probably going to rank them as far as like the most important and the ones I'm most interested in and things like that, to the ones that are least important and least interested in. So be on the lookout for a video like that as as we get closer to like July and things like that. And another good trait that he has is that he's very durable. He hasn't missed a single game since the start of the 2022 season. So health is not really a concern here at all. So in his play style, pass production, and durability, this is a textbook veteran floor raising signing. But he also comes with an exciting ceiling, because again, if you can get 2022 out of him, you potentially have one of the best corners in the NFL, literally. He would be the best corner on this roster if we can get 2022 out of him. The question is, can you? But I'm not gonna lie, I'm way more excited about this Michael Davis signing than I was about the Noah signing a couple of days ago. I like Noah, but Michael Davis is far more proven and has actually had a few really good to elite NFL games and seasons and things like that. And so imagine what Michael Davis can do with a potentially deadly and consistent pass rush in front of him that Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. can do an excellent job of scheming up. Even if they don't have the talent, they've shown that, hey, one thing Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. are going to do if they're working together is get pressure on the quarterback and force turnovers, no matter how much talent or the lack thereof that they have at their disposal. But then again, Michael Davis did just play behind Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. And Khalil Mack, even though a lot of people weren't talking about him, still had an elite season last year. So we definitely don't have that. Not at least yet. But I still trust Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. to get consistent pressure on the quarterback. So we'll see. He had elite pass rushers in front of him for the Chargers last year and still didn't play well. We'll see what happens with the Commanders. But even again, if he's not his 2022 self, I love the fact that we're doing everything that we can to go into this draft doing what we want to do rather than what we need to do. We're filling out the roster. We technically have no real holes other than starting quarterback, which we're going to address number 2 overall, and we need to take tackle immediately after quarterback unless we sign a guy in free agency, which I'm not sure if we're going to do at this point, especially with Tyron Smith already going to the Jets and things like that. So like the only holes we have is starting left tackle and quarterback. Everything else I would prefer to get upgrades for those positions in the draft, but we don't necessarily need to. We already have guys in place that can start, that can go out there and play meaningful snaps for us everywhere across the board. It's literally only left tackle and franchise quarterback right now. So I love the fact that we've done what we need to do in free agency as far as linebacker, cornerback, all these different position groups. And now we can go into the draft and do anything that they want to do after quarterback and left tackle and just go best player available from there for the rest of the draft. And I absolutely love that, man. I love that draft strategy. And even beyond that, of Washington's 19 contractual agreements so far, 15 are primarily offensive and defensive players, and from that 15, only Luvu, Biadish, Armstrong, Allegretti, and Eckler have signed for 2+ years. That's it. That's literally it. So basically, this goes back to my point about us being a free agency destination where players are even willing to do this. But also, looking at it from the Adam Peters side, you can tell he's not trying to ever deal with having to play players on his team that are not living up to the money that they deserve. They're making more money than they're worth. Like they've just fallen off of a cliff. You sign them to a 3 or more longer deal, 4 or 5 year deal, and then now like in the 3rd or 4th year, they're not good anymore, and now they're making more money than what they're worth. These contracts so far have been high value, production overpayment types of contracts. Like these guys are getting paid way less than what they deserve, I feel like, in my opinion, for a lot of these signings. And so basically, from Adam Peters' point of view, if there's even a slight slice of risk, either from maybe like a recent lack of production in Michael Davis's case, or maybe even like age, it's just a 1-year deal for you, buddy. That's it. No questions asked. Don't even argue with me. You can go somewhere else. We're only giving you a 1-year deal if there's even a slight amount of risk. And again, the biggest deal he's given anybody is 3 years to a couple of people. That's it. Also, shouts out to Commanders Realm for pointing this out. I completely agree. Washington's offseason additions mirror those of the 2021 Texans. Signed a gazillion vet free agents to 1-year deals following a disastrous 4-12 season. Ultimately build a mold that Stroud was able to be dropped into, but they didn't even have a 1st or 2nd round pick that year. And then that takes me to my point about how we're also looking like the 2022 Texans as well. Because I feel like Stroud was dropped into a team that, yeah, they had the 2nd overall pick when they took him, but they weren't number 2 draft pick bad at all by the time the regular season started, because they made so many moves over the past couple of years that were very similar to the ones that we're making right now. So even though, yeah, they had the 2nd overall pick and they took them with that 2nd overall pick, they weren't 2nd overall pick bad by the time we got to the regular season. So if there were ever a team that could go from trash to class real fast, it's us right now. Literally, potentially 2nd overall pick to win in a division and a playoff game like the 2023 Texans. Even though, again, like Commander's Realm pointed out, this kind of dates back to like maybe 2 years ago when they really started. But I feel like we've done enough this offseason to where maybe we could flip it in like a year, like what it looked like the Texans did last year. And I mean, if that's what we're trying to do, hey man, we could not have gotten off to a better start in my opinion. But games are won on the field. And everything can look good on paper, but let's see what it looks like on the field and not on paper. But hey, man, remember, even before that, we have to go crazy in the draft. Remember, the Texans picked the right quarterback and had a really good rest of the draft as well in 2023 before the 2023 season even started. That's step 3. Remember, step 1, we hired the right front office guys and coaches. Step 2, we're having a great free agency right now. We're living in step 2 right now. And then step 3, we got to kill it in the draft. You got to hit on all 3 of those. So far, we hit on the first 2, I believe, but you got to hit on all 3 to even have a chance for step 4, which is actually go out there and win games in the regular season and win a division and go to the playoffs. But back to Michael Davis before we get up out of here. I feel like at worst, we got a good backup corner at worst case scenario, to be completely honest. So this is still an upgrade because Forbes was technically benched for most of the year last year. So he was technically the backup, in my opinion, behind Fuller and Benjamin St-Juste. And I'm willing to bet big money that Michael Davis is at the very least better than rookie version of Emmanuel Forbes. So that's an upgrade right there at the very least in the worst case scenario. And when you upgrade anything, when you upgrade any little part of a team, especially for extremely cheap on a 1-year prove-it deal like we just did, it's always a win in my book. And also, lastly, the Commanders have officially signed deals with their 16 external free agents and 3 re-signings, just to give you that update. So once they officially update like the cap hits for everybody, because I'm still waiting on Jamison Crowder, Bobby Wagner, Anthony Pittman, Marcus Mariota, and FL Bada. Once we officially get those cap hit updates, I will give y'all a full cap space update video and like breakdown of everybody's contracts and talk about whether we still somehow have the most cap space in the NFL or not. But then again, we may just end up signing more guys. You never know. Maybe by the time they update those, we've signed somebody else, and I'm waiting for that one to be updated, and then it just keeps delaying it. But at the end of the day, as a fan, I'm not mad at that at all. Keep going crazy in free agency. I know it makes me look crazy as a reporter on YouTube when I'm talking about what we're doing and what we're projected to do and things like that. But as a fan, I'm absolutely loving what we're doing in free agency right now. They've exceeded my expectations and some. So, hey, man, go out there and go get me Justin Simmons right now. Please make me look stupid, please. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. I did not expect this video to end up going this long. I'm not gonna lie. But I mean, I really appreciate y'all for watching this all the way through. If you made it all the way through, y'all know I'm really in depth and very thorough with my breakdowns. But again, I didn't even expect this to go this long. But let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything discussed in the video. Are you as high on Michael Davis as I am, or am I tripping? Am I overthinking things? Am I being too optimistic? Am I being too glass half full? All of that type of stuff. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my points, any of the advanced stats I gave you, Pro Football Focus grades, all of that type of stuff, and just the overall outlook of the DB group, especially the cornerback group specifically, all of that type of stuff. And again, stay tuned for all of the videos that I'm working on. I'm working on so much content for y'all, so make sure you have that bell next to the subscription button clicked in so you get a notification each and every time I release a video, because if you don't, you may get a notification like 1 out of every 10 videos. I mean, at this point, I'm doing like 2-3 videos a day. You're definitely not going to be notified of each one, so make sure you definitely have that bell clicked in. I really appreciate y'all. Shouts out to all of y'all donating to the Cash App and things like that. I see y'all in the super chat. I'm making sure I definitely reply to those immediately, so I really appreciate y'all. Stay patient with me because I'm trying to read and reply to as many comments as possible from previous videos, especially this most recent one where I first basically showcase the new intro and things like that. So stay tuned. I appreciate y'all. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.